Hi, grade 7 students. Today, we're diving into the writing process and learning about an essential tool that will help bring clarity and flow to your stories. Transitional devices. By the end of this lesson, you'll know how to use these tools to make your writing cohesive and coherent, enhancing both structure and engagement. Let's get started. To kick things off, let's think about the writing process with a few questions. What's the first step you take when starting a story? How do you ensure your story is clear and interesting for readers? Take a moment to think about these questions. Understanding this process will help make your writing more compelling. Here's what we aim to accomplish. Since you've learned about different types of literary texts, it's time to create your own. This week, we'll focus on the competency. Revise the literary texts for coherence and cohesion. You'll be using transitional markers to make your writing more connected and easier to follow. Unlocking vocabulary. Here are some key terms you'll encounter. 1. Pre-writing. Activities like brainstorming and gathering information before drafting. 2. Drafting. Writing sentences and paragraphs that express your ideas. 3. Revising. Making changes to improve content and organization. 4. Editing. Checking for grammar and spelling errors. 5. Publishing. Sharing your final work, whether printed, told aloud, or posted online. 6. Story map. A graphic organizer with elements like setting, characters, and plot. 7. Transitional devices. Words or phrases that help connect ideas and make writing flow smoothly. Keep these terms in mind as we go through each step of the writing process. Steps in the writing process. Let's see how well you know these steps with a quick guess the picture game. Choose whether the image shows step of pre-writing, drafting, revising, editing, or publishing as shown. You've got 5 seconds for each item. Ready? Set. Go! 1. Have I used the best ideas and words? Is my writing in a sensible order? The correct answer is revising. 2. Have I used complete sentences? Are my spelling, capitalization, and punctuation correct? The correct answer is editing. 3. What do I want to say? What else do I need to know to begin? The correct answer is pre-writing. 4. Are my thoughts organized? Which ideas do I want to develop? The correct answer is drafting. 5. Should I record myself telling my story and post it online? Should I read it out loud? The correct answer is publishing. Did you get them all? Awesome job. Now let's walk through each step in detail. Steps in the writing process. Focus on pre-writing and drafting. Pre-writing. Think. Choose a topic. Think about your audience. Brainstorm ideas and organize with a story map. Research if needed. Drafting. Write. Start writing sentences and paragraphs even if they aren't perfect. Review what you wrote to see if it conveys your message. Revising. Make it better. Read and refine your work. Rearrange, add, or delete ideas as needed. Replace unclear words for clarity. Editing. Make it correct. Ensure complete sentences. Correct grammar, spelling, and punctuation. Have someone check your work, then make corrections. Publishing. Share the finished product. Read aloud, post online, or even make a book of your work. Share it proudly. Let's review all 5 steps: pre-writing, drafting, revising, editing, and publishing. These steps bring your story to life. Activity. Map it out. Pre-writing. Now, let's start with pre-writing using a story map. For this exercise, we'll use We Filipinos Are Mild Drinkers by Alejandro R. Roses as an example. In doing the plot, you may be guided with the following questions. Exposition. When and where did the story happen? How did the story begin? Rising action. What conflict problem was encountered by the characters? Climax. How did the character confront the problem? Falling action. How did the character solve the problem? Resolution. How did the story end? Now, don't take a peep yet. Make you own before I will show a sample answers to this map. Well, practicing individual work will make you real tough in the real world. So better pause the video and do your story map first. So let's get it on. Here is a sample output for the story map. But since this is only a sample, you can do a lot better. Here it is. Exposition. In 1945, a Filipino farmer meets an American soldier named Joe. Joe asks where he can find a bar. Rising action. The farmer explains there are no bars. He invites Joe to his nipa hut to drink lambanog. Climax. Joe gets drunk after drinking lambanog, but the farmer stays sober. Falling action. Joe is surprised that the farmer can handle alcohol. Resolution. The farmer reflects on how Filipinos are misunderstood in their drinking habits. The story ends humorously. Well, here is mine. Does it sound like your answers? Then, good job. Transitioning to your own story, now that you've mapped out your story, you're ready to build a story timeline and draft. Remember, the timeline is a brief outline, while the draft is where you add details and dialogue. Here's a sample story timeline and draft of the story, We Filipinos Are Mild Drinkers. For the story timeline, exposition. In 1945, it was a common sight for Filipinos to see American soldiers who were subject to the influence of alcohol. One day, an American soldier named Joe asked a Filipino farmer where he could find a bar in the barrio. While for draft, it was the year 1945 when the Americans came back to the Philippines after World War II. In our barrio, it was common to see American soldiers who were drunk. One day, as I was working in the field, an American soldier passed by and asked, "Hey amigo, do you know any bars around here?" You could observe that in the draft, there are already some dialogues included here, and more details are added. For the next, timeline, rising action. Because there were no bars in the barrio, the farmer invited Joe to his nipa hut and offered lambanog. Joe got drunk while the farmer didn't. Draft. "I'm sorry, but there are no bars here, Joe. Do you know any place where I could get whiskey?" "There is none that I know of, Joe. We Filipinos don't drink whiskey. Why don't you just go with me so I can offer you lambanog? It's our local drink, but I am not sure if you will like it." Joe smiled and accepted my offer. So I hurriedly attended to my carabao and got ready to go home. Did you observe that the emotions are present in the draft, not as much in timeline? Well, that's right. Timeline provides a brief summary of events in your story while in the draft. You are already writing the whole story, but more steps are still coming until you finalize it. But always remember, as you build your story timeline and draft, remember that using transitional devices will help your writing flow smoothly. Whether it's showing the cause and effect relationship between events or shifting from one action to the next, transitions are your writing's bridges. In writing, transitional devices are like bridges that connect ideas and events, making your story flow smoothly. They help guide the reader from one point to the next without confusion. For example, in We Filipinos Are Mild Drinkers, we can see transitional devices in action. Here's a passage. I said, I'll show you where you can drink, but it's not whiskey. It's lambanog. Notice how the phrase, but it's not whiskey, shifts the idea from what the soldier expected, whiskey, to what the farmer actually offers, lambanog. This simple transition keeps the conversation clear and guides the reader smoothly through the change in the story. In another part, the story says, so I led him to my hut, and we sat down. The word so helps connect the reason for leading the soldier to the hut with the action of sitting down. It explains that the next step follows from what happened before. These transitions are small but important. They help tie together events and make sure the story flows naturally. By using transitional devices like these, your writing will be easier to understand and more enjoyable to read. Craft your own draft. Now it's your turn. Using what we've discussed, think creatively for your pre-writing step, create a timeline, and then dive into drafting. This is your opportunity to bring your ideas to life. Formative quiz. Let's check your understanding of the writing steps with a quick true or false quiz. I'll give you 5 seconds to think whether the statement is true or false. 1. True or false? Pre-writing is the first step of the writing process and involves brainstorming and organizing ideas before drafting begins. Answer: true. Pre-writing includes gathering ideas and planning before writing the draft. 2. True or false? During the editing step, the focus is only on adding new ideas and changing the content of the story. Answer: false. Editing focuses on correcting grammar, spelling, and punctuation, not changing the story's content. 3. True or false? Using a story map is helpful in the pre-writing stage to visualize the elements of a story, such as setting, characters, and plot. Answer: true. Story map helps organize story elements before drafting. 4. True or false? Using transitional devices is optional in writing and you may never use it. Answer: false. While not strictly required, using transitional devices is highly recommended in writing. They help create logical connections between ideas, making the writing clearer and more engaging. 5. True or false? The publishing stage is when a story is finalized and free from errors. Answer: false. Publishing is the last step. The short story should be shared to others by posting it online or publishing it on printed media. Great job today. By understanding the steps in the writing process, you're already creating a strong foundation for a captivating story. Remember, every great writer starts with a draft and improves it with revision. Let your imagination flow and don't be afraid to make changes as you go. If you enjoyed this lesson, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell to keep learning with us. We can't wait to see what you'll create. Drop your comments and questions below, and we'll see you next time. Happy writing!